guys, welcome to a new sewing video. I'm sure anybody who sews on a regular-ish basis has something like this in their house, the scrap pile, and mine is getting out of control. I have just a tiny amount of space for fabric storage and it is being taken over by scraps. I have all of this fabric left, which is gorgeous, good quality material. I have a lot of linen, beautiful cottons, printed stuff, and it's just going to waste in a big pile of scraps. So today I am going to do something with this. I'm gonna make a bunch of quick, small little projects that are perfect for using up those fabric scraps. And these are also actually pretty great to make as gifts for people. Just really easy, kind of beginner-friendly projects. Let's get started straight away. One of my favorite things to make out of scrap fabric is a matching face mask. Who would have ever thought I would say that? What you will need for this project is your fabric that you want to use, a lining fabric, and I highly suggest that at least one of these is made out of cotton, tightly woven cotton preferably, and a face mask that you already have and that fits you well. So to start, I'm going to fold the main fabric in half and trace my face mask. I'm then going to cut out that shape, stabilizing the fabric with some pins first, and I'm making sure to add a little bit of seam allowance here. Then I am going to cut that same shape out of 2 layers of my lining fabric. So I should now have 2 layers of main fabric and 2 layers of lining fabric. So I am first going to lay the pieces of main fabric on each other, right sides together, and pin the front. Same thing with the lining fabric, and I'm just going to sew the fronts, just the front round parts of the mask. Alright, when they are both sewn, it should look a little something like this, and we can already see the mask taking shape here. So I personally like to then trim the seam allowance so that there is as little bulk as possible in my mask. So I do that on both the outer fabric and the lining fabric, and I even like to press my seams afterward. If you are doing this, please press to one side so that both seam allowances are pressed to one side and you don't get an opening in the center of your mask. So don't press the seams open. Alright, there we go. So it's time to attach these two together. So I am going to place them inside each other, right sides together. And then I'm going to take my elastics, which are going to go behind my ears when I wear the mask. So again, I'm just measuring the elastics that are already on my face mask. Alternatively, you could measure the distance from the edge of the mask to behind your ear and kind of just measure it out while you are wearing it. But I'm then going to place the elastic inside the mask, so between the 2 layers of outer fabric and lining fabric, making sure that I pin this down so that it doesn't slip away while I'm sewing this. I'm gonna do that both sides. And then I am going to sew around the edge of the mask, making sure to leave a little opening in one of the sides. Then you can flip the mask inside out through that little opening after you have again trimmed the seam allowance. And then all there's left to do is to close up that one open bit on the side. So I just top stitch that. Honestly, can't be bothered to do this by hand. And I go ahead and I top stitch the other side as well. This just enforces that elastic, make sure it really stays in well. And then I just press all of my seams and there is the face mask done. Next up, I am going to make a good old classic scrunchie. Again, a really nice accessory to make matching with your new garments. So I measure out a rectangle of 9 by 50 centimeters. Trim the edges to make it even, and I will then sew along the edge after I have folded the strip. When that is all sewn up, I'm going to use a safety pin to turn this tube inside out. I'm using the pin to guide the end through the fabric, and that's a really easy method to turn a tube inside out. So then I'm going to take a 20 centimeter piece of elastic, which I'm also going to thread through the tube using the safety pin. And then all there's left to do is just hand sew these edges shut. And I like to do this by hand using a slip stitch so that it's nice and invisible. And there is the scrunchie all finished. Alright, staying with the theme of hair accessories, another thing you can really quickly and easily make to match your new outfit is a headband. So this time I measured out just straight on top of my head how long I wanted the headband to be. So I went from behind my ear to behind my ear on the other side. That's the length of fabric that I'm using, and I'm using twice the width that I like the finished product to be. I will cut that strip into two, fold it in half, and fold it in half again, and this will allow me to really easily create that slanted shape on the end. So I'm just going to cut at an angle on the bottom here, and that will give me this really nice angled headband-like shape. Then I take my black elastic, and again I just measure this on my head to the length that is remaining. So again, from the back of my ear to the back of my ear, but along the bottom this time. I will lay the elastic inside the headband on one side, sew it shut, making sure to leave one edge open once again. And then once you flip it inside out, you should have a headband with an elastic attached to one side. So then all there's left to do is just press this, make sure it is nice and flat. Then you just turn the ends of this fabric inside out, make sure it looks nice and neat. Stick the elastic in there as well, and top stitch over both ends. Again, to reinforce this elastic. And there is the headband all done. You can make this as thick or as thin as you like. Next project, a teapot cozy. A fantastic thing to keep your tea nice and warm. So to start, I'm going to measure my teapot around the widest part and from top to bottom, and I'm going to use these measurements to create a dome-shaped shape on my fabric that I want to use. I'm going to cut that same shape out of 2 layers of main fabric, 2 layers of lining fabric once again, and 2 layers of this quilting batting that I have left over from my dress form project. So I am going to start by sandwiching the 2 layers of lining between 2 layers of batting, and I'm then going to measure the ear and the tea coming out part of the teapot. I'm sure there's a word for that. And just mark out where those are so that I only sew along the top and leave an opening for those to go into when the teapot cozy is done. I'm gonna measure out the same lengths on the outer fabric and then sew both of these two together. So the lining fabric right sides together and the 2 layers of lining fabric sandwiched between the 2 layers of batting. That leaves me with this, so then I'm going to flip the outer fabric inside out so that it is right side out. And I'm then going to stick this in between the 2 lining pieces. So I'm basically placing these 2 layers right sides together. I'm going to then pin around the edge and sew this up, all of the remaining bits that are still open, but I'm gonna leave an opening to once again flip everything through, so that we can flip it inside out. Again, remember to trim your seam allowances first to reduce some of the bulk. That should leave you with a shape something like this. You can just go ahead and hand stitch the remaining edge. I then decided to add a button and a little bit of elastic on both sides so that I can close up the bottom of the teapot cozy. There is the finished product, a nice hat to keep your tea warm and toasty. The last project I'm going to do today is this wrist-held pincushion, I guess. These are really handy to use when you are draping and you want to have a pincushion handy. So I'm going to start by making another scrunchie. Process is exactly the same as with the first one we did. Only this time I'm going to measure the elastic around my wrist so that it sits nice and snug around my wrist. Alright, so what I have here is the cutout from the center of a circle skirt. When you make a circle skirt, then this round thing always comes out of the portion where your waist is. So I'm just going to baste along the edge of that and pull at the strings to create this little satchel, I guess, which I'm going to stuff with some leftover batting. I'm going to pull it close to create this little pincushion. Which I am then just simply going to attach to the scrunchie. And I'm just hand sewing this again, make sure it's nice and secure. And that leaves you with a super handy wrist-bound pincushion. So there we have it, a bunch of projects made out of scrap fabric. I really enjoyed doing this and I hope you enjoyed watching. Hope you maybe found it useful, found some things that you can recreate from some of your scrap fabrics at home as well. If you did enjoy this video, don't forget to give a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for loads more sewing and beauty and lifestyle content. If you would like to support me through Patreon or my merch store, there are links in the description box below. Thank you so much for your support. There is another video here that I think you might also enjoy. You can go watch next. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you very soon in my next video. Bye!